Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Hampstead School Board meeting of Tuesday, February 9th, 2021. Before we begin, I'll be reading our COVID statement. As chair of the Hampstead School Board, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that we are A, providing public access to the meeting by telephone. We are utilizing Zoom for this electronic meeting. All members of the board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through this platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen to this meeting by dialing the following phone number: 888-475-4499 or 877-853-5257. B, providing public notice of the necessary information for accessing the meeting. We previously gave notice to the public of the necessary information for accessing the meeting, including how to access the meeting using Zoom telephonetically. Instructions have also been provided on the district website at hsdschools.net. C, providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anybody has a problem, please email hmstechnology@hsdschools.net. D, adjourning the meeting if the public is unable to access the meeting. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled. Please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Melissa, will you please call the roll?
Megan Malcolm.
Here, and I'm alone in the room.
Caitlin Parnell.
Here, I'm alone in the room. There are other members of my family in the house.
David Smith.
Here, alone in my room. Others are in the house.
Jim Sweeney.
Here alone in this room, others in the house. Thank you.
Karen Yusenka.
Here alone in the room, there are other people in the home.
Executive Consultant Dr. Earl Metzler.
Present in my home office, and there are other members of my family in the home.
And Pinkerton Student Liaison Emma Johnston.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. Board members, we have, I think, just 2 sets of minutes for approval this week. We have regular meeting minutes and non-public meeting minutes, both from our January 26th meeting. You can take a moment to review, and then if I could have a motion.
Make the motion to accept the meeting minutes from January 26th for the regular meeting and the non-public.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any comments or discussions on the meeting minutes? Okay, Melissa, if you will please call the roll vote.
Ms. Malcolm.
Yes.
Mrs. Parnell.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney.
Yes.
Mrs. Yusenka.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries to accept the minute.
Thank you. Okay, next up are public comments. Melissa, I believe we do have public comments this evening.
Yes, Madam Chair, that's correct. We have 4 individuals who signed up for public comments. They are all Hampstead residents.
Okay, before we begin, I would just like to remind everyone for public comments, our policy does state that you need to be speaking to an item on our agenda. And additionally, just a reminder of time, in the interest of trying to get through as many as possible, we do ask you to stay at 3 minutes as a time limit. I don't want to cut you off, but especially where we have 4 today, generally we can get through 3. But I would like to try to get through as many, so I'll try not to cut you off, but stick to 3 minutes. So first up, I believe we have Erin Mcelini. So Ms. Micolini, Mr. Flynn's gonna, oh, he found you. Okay,
Can you hear me okay?
yes,
Okay.
go
My
ahead.
name is Erin Mcelini. I've lived in Hampstead for 9 years. I have 4 daughters, 11, 10, 7, and 4. Although I'm currently home with my children, my background is in education. Education became a passion of mine long before I had children of my own and continues to be in the forefront of my heart. The school renovation project is and has been something that I feel strongly about. Since my oldest started school, I've seen firsthand the space issue at Central School. Over the past few years, I've watched this project voted down. This begs the question, what happens when our school does not meet the needs of our students that require specific modifications and accommodations in the curriculum? I'm here today to bring my perspective as a mother and an educator to this important conversation. Special education is not a town mandated program. Special education falls under federal law, specifically the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. The first special education law was passed in 1975. IDEA requires every state to issue regulations that guide the implementation of federal law within the state. Hampstead Central School was last renovated in the 80s. At that time, the need was very basic and limited compared to what our school now requires, given the expanding spectrum of special needs children mandating accommodations. The renovation included space for programs such as occupational therapy, speech therapy, physical therapy, and special education for academic needs. Again, the minimum requirements for the town in 1987. Over the past 37 or so years, there have been no physical updates to our school while the needs of students have continuously evolved. For instance, many of our crucial support staff have offices in former storage closets. It is imperative for the school to make sure they are in compliance with the state's regulations. It is not uncommon for the state to audit schools to ensure they are in compliance with the laws they set forth. The goal here is not only to be compliant, but to avoid the significant cost of remediation, both to the town and the students who would need to be outplaced to facilities that are adequately equipped to accommodate their needs. Central School has always followed an inclusionary model and has always done their best to keep students in district because it is what's best for them. If students with special needs and their needs cannot be met, Hampstead would be required to pay upwards of $150,000 for student accommodations outside of the Hampstead school system. Mr. Collins shared with me that busing students to other facilities can average around $70,000 a year per student. The educational piece can be between $50,000 to $100,000. This is for a specialized school setting. I'm sure that many would agree if your child was not receiving what state and federal law entitles them to, you would fight for those services, which comes at a financial and emotional cost. Over the past few years, I've personally witnessed the teachers of Central School being as creative as possible with the little space they have. Storage closets that are set to be a warm and inviting environment for students, hallways for occupational and physical therapy, and the library for academic support. Despite the teachers' creativity, these are not acceptable environments for students to learn and thrive in. Hampstead can no longer avoid.
Sorry, just real quick, wrap up.
Yeah, Hampstead can't avoid or delay the cost of school renovations. It's time for this to be addressed, and understanding that the remediation of these deficiencies would cost the town far more than the cost of renovation itself. Hampstead's future cannot afford any further delay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Micolini.
Excuse me, Madam
Okay,
Chair.
yes,
We just made a statement that only agenda items can be addressed during public comment. Tonight's agenda does not include the renovations or construction project.
I understand. I also think we have some leeway on that policy, should the board choose to let it go.
So I'll put the motion to allow, to override the policy for anyone who wants to speak about the renovations. So if anybody wants to second that.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Generally, we go with comments or discussions at this point. I have a comment on that. While I am fully in favor of leeway, I can't vote for something that's just one specific topic. That's just me. So if we're gonna, there's a motion and there's a second, so we can vote. I'm just stating why I don't feel comfortable voting.
I can take that back and say override for tonight for anybody that's left to speak. That's the agenda item, or what they're speaking to is not on the agenda.
Okay, so that's an amendment. Megan, do you still want to second that?
Can you say it again, David?
Yep. So the motion is to allow whoever wants to speak to anything, even if it's not on the agenda.
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion or comments on that?
So every time there's a meeting now, we're going to be able to do this and override it for that particular night if we have an idea of what those people coming before us may be speaking about.
Can I say something?
Yep.
So
Go ahead,
I
Megan.
guess I overlooked the agenda. I feel like for the last several school board meetings, we've had the renovation and addition project as an item that David has provided us an update on. So I guess that's what's sitting in my mind right now.
And I plan on giving everybody an update on what's been going on in the other / old business. So I'd be speaking to
Right.
that the other way.
Right, but I mean, to be fair, it wasn't on the agenda. I don't believe it's something we need to do every time. I am going to say for this, it makes sense. I gave the leeway and I didn't stop the previous speaker. So I do think it's fair to allow the other people who are signed up tonight to, I have to give them the same courtesy. So if we're going to vote on this, that's how I have to go for this evening. Any other comments or questions or discussion?
I understand you doing that, Caitlin, because you didn't stop the first speaker. I just think it just sets precedent, and that's why I'll be voting against it. But I understand what you're doing. Though, we did say it at the onset that it was an agenda item.
So
So anyways,
the deliberative is on the meeting agenda and the renovations are part of deliberative. So instead of splitting hairs to say, is that part of it or not? That's why I made the motion.
It's valid. Deliberative is on there.
So
yeah, okay, whatever. Let's take the vote.
Okay. Melissa, if you can please call the roll.
Ms. Malcolm,
Yes.
Mrs. Parnell?
Yep.
Mr. Smith,
yes.
Mr. Sweeney,
No.
Mrs. Yusenka,
No, I believe we should abide by our policies. I vote no.
thank you. Motion carries 3 in favor, 2 opposed.
Okay, thank you. All right, so our next resident up for public comment is Miss Stacy Eaton. Well, Mr. Flynn, if you can find her. Okay, Ms. Eaton, you should see, yep, there you go.
Yep, are you able to hear me now?
Yep, I
Okay.
can hear you.
So I'm speaking to, I know the agenda item about after February and the Safe Learning Plan. I have lived in Hampstead for 6 years. I have 3 children in the school district. I'm also an employee of the Salem School District. I'm a special education coordinator for the 5 elementary schools. This allows me to see firsthand the benefits and challenges of in-person learning. I've also worked with our remote staff for families who have chosen that option. And I will tell you, other than masks, school feels very normal and happy. So in addition, I'm a parent of 3 children in 3 schools. My oldest is a freshman at Pinkerton. While the hybrid and remote is not how I want her freshman year to be, at least she's had consistent and daily instruction, and the reopening of Pinkerton is not the task of this administration or school board. We've been fortunate that the Salem School District offered the Boys and Girls Club to staff at no charge for remote learning. I sent my 5th and 6th grader this fall. This was a significant challenge for my boys and the club. There were students from other districts, and all but Hampstead students had full days of instruction. The children from Hampstead started 2 weeks late. So while others were learning, my kids had to find something quiet to do. Then they started a remote model where they had instruction in the morning, 4 days a week, with no teacher contact or Wednesdays or afternoons. In November, they started a hybrid model where they were offered 2 days in person with 1 day of remote instruction, and the other 2 days continued to have no live instruction. Again, they were bored. They had to be quiet while other kids from other schools had live instruction. At this time, we made the difficult decision to remove my 5th grader and enroll him in Salem. Unfortunately, we cannot move our 6th grader since it would be unfair to ask Salem to provide his special education services. My 5th grader started to thrive. He gets instruction every day in all areas. He attends specials, eats lunch in the cafeteria with his friends, plays at recess. He has come home excited that he is learning and he loves school. But that love of learning had been lost with Hampstead's plan. We intended this to be a 1-year move, but now I wonder how I can bring him back. He is getting 100% of the 5th grade curriculum. His Hampstead peers are learning 40 to 50%. His Hampstead, what will happen when he is ready for 6th grade and his peers are not? While he watches what's going on in Hampstead, he is now expressing he does not want to return. The president, governor, Academy Pediatrics, CDC are all saying school should be in person. Salem has been in person for more than half the year with no school spread and minor disruption. Pelham, Sanborn Regional, Barrington, and many others are fully in person. Salem did not go remote after Christmas. You have thoughtful plans already created by other districts that are public on their websites. Don't reinvent the wheel. We should be talking about opening fully and not going remote in February. In addition, I'm asking our 2 top administrators to create a reopening plan to present to the board. Our kids deserve—
Ms. Eaton, I just need you to finish up. I'm sorry.
Yep, almost done. In addition, I ask our administrators to show they're invested by keeping their videos on during meetings. Our children are required to, our teachers are required to. I know this request has been made many times. Let's please show a strong level of investment in our children's overall development and needs, not just the safety, since studies at schools around us have already shown schools—
Okay, Ms. Eaton, I'm sorry.
That's
I'm
it.
sorry. I'm just trying to get everybody. Okay, thank
Nope,
you.
that was
I
the end.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our third one is Mr. Jason Mulhall. Mr. Flynn will be looking for you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Sorry about that. All right, my name's
Okay.
Jason Mall. I live at 3 Emerson Ave, and I'd like to say, first of all, I'd like to back. Didn't plan on talking about it, but I'd like to back everything Stacy just had to say. I was here really to advocate for Warren's Article 2 and 4. I may be biased because I do have 2 kids, one currently in the system and one who will be there in a few years. But I don't want to sit here and tell you why our kids and staff need/deserve this renovation, which I wholeheartedly believe. It is just the fiscal smarter move for all taxpayers. One thing I believe we can all agree on is that we do not want our taxes to be raised any more than they need to be. As a household that had been a single income home for the entirety of the time I've lived in Hampstead, I can understand and relate to the individuals who are on tight budgets and don't want to see the taxes go up. But failing to pass Articles 2 and 4 would severely heighten taxes over time compared to just the renovations themselves. As you've probably heard a bunch of times now, it's $25 a month for a $400,000 property. This number will be minuscule compared to what the taxes will become. Once we actually hit the capacity of the classrooms, as Erin said, I don't want to keep repeating everything over here, but sending kids out of districts will cost much more over time. I wanted to touch upon quickly just the positives for all taxpayers, the ones without the kids. If you look at other towns who have invested money into towns such as Bedford, Londonderry, even Salem, who's invested tens of millions of dollars into their school system, their property values have skyrocketed, and I want that for Hampstead as well. I feel the positives outweigh the negatives for all taxpayers here. I just wanted to also say I was actually hesitant when I first for the renovations, but since joining and kind of learning from Dave, Megan, and their team, it is that the work they've put into this is absolutely incredible and has been a thorough job, and they've looked at every aspect of this project. If you're ever hesitant, like myself at first, reach out and speak to people. They're there to talk to you, and they want to get you the information. If you're still against the decision, that is completely okay, and that's on you. But just please reach out before. I know there's that weekly session every week, and I know it's given me a lot of information. I'm kind of rambling now, but thank you. That's all I got.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have reached the end of our time limit on public comments. I apologize to everyone we didn't get to. But we will move on with the agenda. Next up, we have Pinkerton highlights from Emma Johnston.
Yes, so hi everyone. So a quick schedule update. Miss Eaton mentioned it, but Pinkerton was able to switch back to hybrid yesterday and resume sports, which is great, especially for the sports teams. So basketball was supposed to play their third games today against Londonderry, but it was canceled due to the snow. But I mean, canceling due to the snow is much better than because of COVID, so that's a win to me. But so they will play Londonderry tomorrow instead. The boys at home, and each player is allowed 2 family spectators. So I get to go watch my brother tomorrow. I'm really excited. First sports game I've been to all year. So, and then Unified Basketball will also have their first game against Londonderry on Thursday, which is exciting as well. Course selections. Underclassmen have been choosing classes for the next school year. These are due on February 12th. This includes 8th grade students at Hampstead. And then some events that Pinkerton is having coming up in the next couple of weeks. Students have begun rehearsal for the spring musical. The Stockbridge Theater program has been putting on virtual performances all year, but we're hoping this one can be somewhat normal with an actual audience in person, all COVID permitting, of course. And then Student Council is working with the class office to discuss different important topics that affect the Pinkerton community, such as bullying, drug and alcohol use, and dating violence. And this will be done through means of social media and other platforms in order to promote awareness. So that's all I have for tonight. Not much has happened since my last update. Does anybody have any questions? All right, cool. I'll share this with you, Miss Post, for the minutes.
Thank you, Emma.
I think Jim, yeah.
Mhm.
Glad you're easing back into hybrid. All right, moving on to current business. The first item we have up is to review the 2021 deliberative session. It went as smoothly as possible, I think, in COVID pandemic times. I don't think I've mentioned this publicly, so I do want to really thank our staff at the middle school, specifically our tech staff, because I would not have been able to get through that without the help of Mike Shaw and Joe Dion on site with me to make sure that we were successfully working both cable and Zoom. I know there was some audio maybe at the beginning of Zoom from what I heard, but we got there, and thank you to everyone for getting us through that and making it happen. We did not have any changes to any warrant articles, so went pretty smoothly. And now we move on to voting. I don't have anything else for that. Yes.
Oh, sorry. Most people didn't get a chance to see into the room. How many people were there? Like public, not like staff or?
I would say about 25 to 30.
Really?
Judging by, I believe we had maybe closer to 25. We had, as far as I'm aware, about 40 to 50 chairs set up, distanced. So from my vantage point, let's say about half of them were filled. That's what I think. So everybody wore masks and we got through it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, we'll keep going. Next up is our 2020-2021 Student Academic Progress and Engagement Update. Mr. Flynn, I believe you're going to be speaking to this.
Yeah, so this came about from Ms. Malcolm a couple weeks ago, and we were able to pull together some data with the end of Q2 ending more recently at the middle school. In regards to the central school data, we're not quite there yet. The way they, obviously, the report cards look fairly different there. So what I did and what we did as an admin staff is we pulled the data more specifically for the middle school, and we thought it was pertinent. We have data teams and we check out data all the time, but more specifically, I think it was a good time to check where we were last year in 2020 to where we are at the end of Q2 in 2021. And it's remarkable if you want to know the truth. So this is the data of Q2 where we were last year. This is, if you remember me presenting this in the spring, I'm not sure, it's been a long time. What we do is we run the report on every course taught and every student that takes them. So that's why you'll see the numbers as high as they are. So remarkably, you can see we're right on par where we were at Q2 last year. And Q2, at the end of Q2 last year, we were still fully brick and mortar. We were not into COVID or the emergency learning at that point. So I think this is a testament to the teachers at the middle school that they are continuing to support and maintain our students, whether they're struggling or achieving, and making sure that our students are receiving what's best for them regards to the academic classroom. Now, the next request from Ms. Malcolm was obviously our check-ins. And since we've transitioned back into a hybrid model, it's been fairly easier. I guess that's the easiest way to say that. In regards to the days that our cohorts A and B are in school, they are able to do their check-ins with our student services team. But it's also, believe it or not, allowed that an avenue to cohort C in regards to the virtual counseling with our student services. And they've done a phenomenal job of connecting with students. But in regards to our dipstick points, when we surveyed the middle school here recently, we wanted to make sure that we were still focusing on the area of what students are doing while they're at home, and making sure that while they are not in front of a student, in front of a teacher, that they are feeling or achieving what's best for them. Now, this data is still rolling in. It's done through advisory, which is a check-in itself, and they're doing it with their teachers. But it's always great to see students and their voice. So more specifically, it's good that these, the 69 and the 14% are staying upwards of how they're feeling when they're not with their students. It's important that they still feel that connection. Rolling down, this always makes me it makes us know who our students are. 50% feel like it's perfect or appropriate, where 50% essentially feel like it's too much. I think that would happen within the classroom, not just remotely, more specifically. And then this is always important when they are independently working or working away from the teacher, that they have an idea of what they're doing, what they should be achieving, and if they understand what's going on. And as you can see, we're upwards of 80% in that area. This was interesting. And what's interesting is when we first reached out at the beginning of the year to where we are now, as you can see, it's revolving around the technology. And Caitlin, you did a great thing pointing out the tech team and what they've been doing and achieving. They've become a home support system for these technology issues. We are not Comcast or Xfinity, and we are not able to go to polls and strengthen signals. But that tends to seem to be one of our biggest struggles with our students, is their own internet connectivity. And then that also lends into the next two issues where we're having with Zoom in our Chromebooks. Now, I spoke to Chromebooks earlier. When we began purchasing Chromebooks at the middle school level, there was never the intention of them being fully remote. So the capability of them was to standard of what we needed them for within the classroom, or students being able to access stuff at home. Now, to go to full live instruction with Zoom, we're starting to see some struggles in that, but we're also starting to evaluate what type of purchases we'll make in the future as we start to shift some of our learning towards the Zoom world. And then the number 4 obviously goes back to what we saw a little bit earlier. Now, I would say that there was that was an open-ended question. So those were the themes that we gathered, but we had close to, I'd say, almost 75 different topics that students were reaching out. And what was good is it was connecting with what we were seeing when they were within school, and we were having those check-ins or those roundtables with students during school, and it just reaffirmed, and we allowed them to fill out those surveys. We're going to work on the central school. Remember, that's a little bit of a different animal with students and getting them to perform a survey like that. But I want to continue to reiterate that the teachers and the student services are continually checking in, with our students on a daily basis if they're in person. But again, they've really opened that avenue of counseling outside in small group sessions virtually. So those are a couple of the checkpoints for us right now, and we'll certainly do it at Q3 again and make sure that we can wrap up the year on a strong suit.
Go ahead, Megan.
Okay. Thank you. So I have 2 questions. So when looking at the first chart, is there a way, was the survey sent out, the responses anonymously? Is there a way we can reach out to I think it was 14 or 15% of the student?
Yeah. Yep. So their student email addresses, they have to be, because you have to be on server. That's how we protect it. So the only way they can take it is if they're logged into their Google account. So it is, we are able to group those responses more specifically. As I said, some of those other themes that weren't bigger, not to go into specific details, but our student service teams reviews those. And if they are concerning, then they're obviously reached out to and spoken to more specifically. So yes, we do track that.
Okay, thank you. And then one other question. I think you were saying that the last one was freeform. I noticed all the most of
open response. Yeah, so we had an open response rather than providing them. We wanted to see what kind of net we could get. So it was, what is your biggest struggle? I don't know, I forget this question specifically. So they were able to input anything. We got from I don't know to everything's great to a dissertation on what's going on within math class, where Mr. Flynn might be assigning way too much work. So it was actually it was great to see. But as you saw, what I targeted just for this evening was what the bigger themes were.
Okay, thank you.
Questions?
Go ahead, David.
Mr. Flynn, how many students responded to that? Did we get a large population to respond, or?
So as of right now, we're at about 280.
Okay.
But the other cohort was supposed to go today.
Okay.
So we'll chip away at those when we return.
Okay, thank you. And before you sent out the survey, was there a goal that you all were looking at to say, like, and it's impressive numbers, so I just wanted to see if you said it like you were trying to get 80% satisfied or something like that, that you would look at, some sort of action plan after that?
Yeah, so those would be flagged. And I want to be clear, even though we're at an 80%, that still means we're at a 20% deficit in that area. And more specifically, we break it down per grade. So 5, 6, 7, 8, just at that level currently. And then from there, we're able to then theme it out at that level and see what the struggles are. Data can be some of our best friends here in this area, and we want to make sure that we're supporting the students in any area they need.
All right, thank you. I think that's important for the parents to know what you guys are doing, so thank you.
Board members, any other questions or comments on this?
No, I'm good. By David's and Megan's questions, I was just wanting to know the negatives of that chart. The disagree, totally disagree. What was the plan for that? Are they looking at it? But David and Megan, Mike answered the questions for them. So thank you.
Okay. All right, Mr. Flynn, thank you for that update. I think you're up next anyways, but we will move on to our safe learning plan recommendation for after February break.
I believe Dr. Metz was going to jump in on this one.
Excellent. Thank
Okay.
you.
Sorry.
That's fine.
I'll do my best to be brief, but we need to take a little bit of a look, where we were, where we are, and where we're going. First, we look at safe learning plans. I'll address the invalid and unreliable, flawed practice of trying to compare one district to another district. It just doesn't make any sense. Our resources are different. Our structures are different. Our boards are different. And every district has a negotiated memorandum of understanding. Those as a MOU. And so that tells us what we can do and what we can't do, right? So again, it makes little or no sense to compare what we do with what someone else does. And these aren't cookie cutter plans where you can just drop a plan on some other district. It just doesn't work. So I'll stand by our plan. We've been very strategic. You've committed to limiting the transitions. We haven't had to shut down grades. We haven't had to shut down buildings. You've been very strategic in your plans. For instance, the 2 weeks following Christmas break, other schools chose not to do that and ended up with clusters of problems and were shut down for long periods of time. We've had quite a few more days in person than a lot of other places. That being said, we have two challenges really to talk about tonight. One is, Caitlin, is the one that you just brought up. What do we do following February break? Not recommending at this time that we go remote, but people, parents, students need to understand we potentially will not have the staff to reopen following February break. We don't know for sure right now. I can tell you we are strained with guaranteed staff absences following the break. It's not just about families that travel outside of New England, it's about staff. And we can't tell staff what to do on their break. We can tell them that they have to follow the protocols that are put in place, which means they will have to quarantine. So at this time, we still plan to reopen after the break, but we're watching it very closely. It's strained. I just want people to be ready. We certainly don't want to be in the business of telling you the Sunday night before the Monday that we can't open school. Unfortunately, that's how staff shortages go sometimes. We want to let you know as soon as possible. So I can tell you as of today, we know for sure we're going to be strained. We're going to do our best to try to stay on path. We certainly want to limit the transitions. That's something that you've committed to. And so I do believe it was prudent of the 2 weeks after Christmas vacation. I think that probably kept our Hampstead bubble strong. I'm hoping that this will be the case and we'll be able to return after vacation. Again, we will let everyone know as soon as we can, but we are working on that. So that being said, it moves to the next thing. Our plan has always been, how do we get to an increased in-person late winter, early spring? And that still is the plan. We do have a memorandum of understanding with our unions. We have formally requested to take a look at that. I would target a date in around probably the 15th or 22nd of March as a day where we'd like to try to increase in-person learning. That recommendation would be conditional upon the governor lifting the state of emergency or the World Health Organization Director General declaring the pandemic to be finished. Those are exact words taken from the duration out of the negotiated memorandum of understanding. Again, that's with the board and the unions. You know, we manage that, but that's an agreement between those two organizations. I can say, and I don't want to mislead anyone, our unions have been great. Our staff has been great. I do believe that we haven't had major disruption in our plan, primarily because our staff has been taking everything very seriously, have followed protocols, and certainly are doing everything they can. As part of that request to formally renegotiate what our memorandum of understanding looks like for late winter, early spring, there have been requests about what will we need to do in order to for staff to feel and for families to feel comfortable with a full return. Vaccinations came up first. Air quality. There is a 6-foot kind of distance that has made it difficult to increase in-person learning. That's a reality. It's not a criticism. I'm not making a judgment. We're trying to work within the confines of what we have. Looking for a path to increased in-person learning that was promised. We're doing everything we can. I know administrative staff, unions, we're working collaboratively to get there where everybody feels comfortable. And again, that target would be, the 15th, the 22nd of March, somewhere in there. I'm hoping if we could get back 4 days a week with a day of cleaning, something along those lines. Again, that recommendation that I would bring to you would be conditional upon, one of those two events happening, either the governor lifting the state of emergency or the World Health Organization Director General declaring the pandemic to be finished. Or obviously we're hoping to be able to renegotiate the current conditions of the memorandum of understanding. That's going to take some time. We've been discussing it for quite some time. We do not have a date set, but we're looking to formally renegotiate that at this time. So that's where we are. And Mike, if you wanted to jump in and add, this would be a good time.
It's as we plan to return, it's going to be strained, and we just have to understand the challenges of a smaller district in regards to staffing. Both buildings have done a phenomenal job. There were a couple weeks when we were at a 6 or 7, maybe 8 person out, which makes it extremely difficult as there's no substitutes. I mean, we're getting 1 or 2, which is really great comparatively, but we don't have obviously 6, 7, 8. So you're talking about covering multiple classes, multiple duties, multiple lunches, things of that nature. And we keep in mind, it's not just COVID staffing outages or people being out, it's also other things. So it's just, it's been a challenge, and I commend the administration on being able to piece it together every day. But we still have quite a long way to go.
And Caitlin, we certainly be willing to answer any questions about the safe learning plan. We'll be status quo and hybrid for now. And then again, a formal recommendation would be in the event that one of those conditions gets lifted.
Okay. Board members, any questions or comments on this?
Dr. Metzler, about after February, are we open to having, well, I guess it would be hard in the middle school, the way they teach. I was just thinking about, having certain grades not be in school versus certain grades in if teachers are out. I don't know if that would work well in the middle school, now that I think about it. But anyways.
Yeah, our approach really has not been to isolate grades and shut down particular grades or sections of. Our approach really has been a Hampstead bubble, a district, if you will. We have a lot of staff that are in both buildings daily. So there's like a kind of a cross pollination there, if you will, in terms of, everybody needs to kind of be in sync and doing the same thing. So we've been, like I said, we've been fortunate. I think, everyone may not be happy, but we've been deliberate and strategic, and everything that we've decided to do has happened the way we've decided it to happen. So, I am cautiously optimistic that we'll be able to do this. I certainly had hoped for a more aggressive vaccination program, like all of you, and certainly like everyone that's listening and watching this evening, as well as all our students. That's clearly not going to happen. So we can't rely on a vaccination program. There are people that are still in the 1B category that have appointments late April, early May. So, when is 2A? I mean, we watch it every day, but I think there's been a lot that's happened over the last year that we were like, no way will that happen. No way will that happen. Here we are a year later, we're still dealing with the same pandemic. So we're trying to find the path to deliver on what we promised, which was more in-person learning, late winter, early spring. That's what we're working, daily on, trying to get that to everyone to get to a place. For some people it's air quality, for some people it's vaccinations, for some people it's the 6 foot. Once we get to the 6 foot thing, that really limits how many students we can have in a particular classroom. So that's where that is. But I think, when you're looking at team teaching and those sorts of things, we'd like to keep everyone kind of on the same page if we can. Now, that being said, in a hybrid, hybrid doesn't even mean the same thing in our district as it does in other districts. So, it's, again, we can't compare what other districts are doing with what we're doing. We're just trying to be deliberate and strategic and deliver on our plan. And I think we appreciate your support. I know it's not always easy because there's a lot of pressure to get kids back in school. And certainly there's a lot of research that says we should be able to do this, but we also have, we're a smaller district and we have certain conditions and things that we need to deal with in order for everyone to feel safe and be able to do this the best way possible for Hampstead.
Thank you.
Yeah, Dr. Metzler, if I'm hearing you and Mr. Flynn correctly, for the immediate future, that being 2 weeks right after February vacation, I'm hearing that the board really has two choices to give the administration direction in. One choice is to make a decision based on the information you already have, that staff is going to be kind of thin. We could make that decision now based on that information, that we will go remote for 2 weeks after. By doing so, parents, staff, teachers, everyone could plan. They could start planning and know what was going to happen after vacation. Option number 2 is we wait and see, take the wait and see perspective. And if everything works out well, that's fine. We go back, there are no changes. However, if in fact your predictions are true, that we're going to be very short-handed on staff, by waiting until then, we're not able to give that time needed to make that adjustment. People will not be notified except in real time. So I don't know how the board feels, but I think the board should consider that. And at this point, give some direction to the administration. Do we want to call it now, or do we want to wait and call it in real time and have people make those adjustments in real time?
Well, normally we've been making decisions based on the recommendations that the administration has put forward. From what I was hearing from Dr. Metzler is they are not currently recommending 2 weeks remote after February break. But you are correct that he said, that we are thin on staffing. But what I heard was not recommending remote.
Caitlin, if I could.
Yep.
Yeah, so an analogy that I think is a fair analogy, this reminds me a lot of a snow day, kind of like today, right? So we have information, and so there are times when it's absolute and we know the night before and people appreciate that advance notice. There are other times when you find out at 5:30, 5:45 in the morning. So it's one of those things. I think what we know right now, like I said, we know right now that we're strained already. We know a certain percentage has already indicated that they will have to quarantine following the break. We're close, right? If If I had absolute numbers, I'd be recommending strongly I'd be telling you, we can't open. It's trending that way, that's for sure. I'm struggling, just like everyone else is struggling with, I want people to know as soon as possible because their entire work schedules and lives get turned upside down, and they have to make all kinds of arrangements for their children, especially the little ones. So yeah, it's just a matter of how much notice is needed, and would it be premature to do it tonight? I don't have an answer. I mean, it's, it's almost like we weren't planning on a snow day last night at 11 o'clock, and today a lot of things changed early this morning, and I can talk more about that in my report, so some people can understand how many variables go into a snow day. I digress. Back to this, it's just a matter of, we're concerned. We're worried that that's what we're going to end up having to do. I want you to have all the information, and certainly that's a decision that you can make.
So would you prefer that we wait a week and see if the condition, not the condition, sorry, the information, get different information in a week? And that way we give parents some notice, a decent notice, maybe not the same notice as tonight, but at least we did our part in, getting some more information before we make a decision.
Well, the information I have, and this is again, numbers, not names, right? The information I have is I know for sure of a certain percentage that are going to have to quarantine. 100% I know that. Then I have another group that is a maybe, which I don't know if I'm going to know that next Tuesday, probably not. That's something we might find out later in the week, into that weekend, as to who's not going to come to work on Monday. A lot of times when people are sick, which is traditional sickness, not COVID related, not quarantine, they typically call in the night before. So we'd find out on Sunday night. So we get to 5 to 7 people out per building, we can't open. We're close. We're strained. We're close already.
Are we close in both buildings or one building?
Both buildings.
Okay, that was my question before. I mean, I know, doing something for the whole district might be better, but I'm okay with one school opening, one school closing, if that's it. But if we're going to be strained in both schools, I understand that. I mean, maybe we just wait a week and make the call then. If it doesn't change, then we'll just have to make the call at that point. If we all feel that tonight is a little early, we might have to have a meeting about it, but we can meet on the 16th briefly and make a decision and see if there's any new information. Go on the recommendation. I don't know.
So I'm kind of surprised we're having the conversation at all, because we keep on talking safe learning plan and all the measurements around, what we should and shouldn't be doing, and I know we can't tell anybody, parents, kids, teachers, et cetera, that they can't travel, but we want to keep the district safe. I'm just surprised that this many people, parents, kids, whoever, are traveling outside of New England this much, that this is a conversation we got to have. It's the middle of the pandemic. So, for me, it's kind of concerning if this many people in our community are traveling. With us talking so much about the safe learning plan, I would have just thought that there'd be a lot of more conservatism on the safe learning plan. So for me, I don't see us voting on this thinking we're gonna, it's almost like we're saying it's okay. It's okay to, and I don't think that's the way we should be planning this. Quite honestly, I think we should be planning it as though we have safe learning plan, we have different rules that, as a society we're supposed to follow. Until I see otherwise, as a, board member, parent, whatever, I think we should be holding off. I don't see us needing to call it right now at all.
But at some point we do have to make a decision based on Dr. Metzler's recommendation. So all I'm saying was,
Well,
we don't want to make it tonight, then see what new information that he has by next week and see what the recommendation is.
Caitlin, if I could.
Dr. Metzler, can I ask a real quick question before you go? If we were to, if we don't vote today, if we don't feel like we have enough information next week, say you do get updated information on Thursday of vacation week, you don't actually need the board to vote to go remote, correct? Because if we do not have the staff,
right,
we just make, I just want to clarify. that you could make the decision without needing a board vote, if that was the situation that happened.
Can I speak now? Yeah, good. Answer?
Yep.
Oh, okay. So you are correct, right? So the board is really, we've chosen to work collaboratively with the board through this whole process. We don't really need a board vote for any of the things that we've had to do in regards to our safe learning plan. And then obviously in the event of a crisis, that's what we need to do. We need to manage the crisis. Now, again, we can choose to be proactive or reactive. We get all the time, people in town have large parties at their houses with lots of kids, no masks, people not socially distanced, people email us or tell us about them and that kind of thing. And so, we have concerns about that as well. So again, it's like, those concerns in the town, we've had a really good Hampstead bubble. So we're doing something right. A lot of other districts had to shut down grades and those sorts of things. So yeah, my concern is the same concern that you echoed earlier. It's just a matter of, I'm hoping that we're able to open, and I certainly don't want to tell families the Sunday night before the Monday. I'm not suggesting we do it right now, but I'm like, it's just one of those things. We want to be as proactive as possible to give people a chance to plan. But we really, we need more information. Like I said, if tomorrow was the day, we can open tomorrow, right? With the information we have. I just, I worry about traditional illnesses and people that call in addition to the quarantine, in addition to what we'll be able to do. So, yeah, as soon as we know, I certainly, Caitlin, you and I, we communicate almost every day. I certainly would let you know as soon as I know, whether it's Thursday or Friday or Saturday or whatever. And I certainly would inform the board, and we'd get that information out as soon as we possibly could. I just struggle with families that need the time to plan, and we can't have it both ways, right? So it's one or the other, right?
Thank you. Board
Can-
members and, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, can we talk about, Dr. Metzler, you were saying about, the March timeframe you're targeting? Because I heard, I agree. It'd be great if the governor does lift this emergency order. We definitely seen a lot of good measurements over the last 3-4 weeks. The last count that we saw was like cases were dropping by 50% over the last 2 weeks. Infection rate is in the low range. Cases per 100,000 have dropped. I think that's by half, or over 50% over the last 2 weeks. So it's all trending in the right direction, which is great for society, great for New Hampshire. But realistically, I mean, seeing that the World Health Organization is going to lift this, or seeing the governor is going to lift the emergency order in the next 4 or 5 weeks, that's going to be nearly impossible. So really, what this comes to is us negotiating and looking at the MOU is what I'm hearing from what you're saying. Would you say that's accurate?
That is accurate. I mean, I only, I made reference to 2 things that were in the MOU
Right.
in terms of duration, it's just a factual piece. Like if one of those 2 things were to happen,
Right.
then we have a tremendous amount of flexibility with the MOU in place. We have some limitations about what we can and can't do. I told you one of the earlier meetings when I was super excited about potentially getting us back in full earlier. And I've had several conversations with you privately, not just you, but other members about this. And I have to come back a week later saying we can't because, too many people want to be in person, which is not a bad thing. It's a good thing. We don't have the staff, or the 6 feet versus 3 feet. I mean, there are some things here. And I mentioned all of them. I mean, clearly we're not going to have everybody vaccinated in our time frame in the middle of March, right? So that's not going to happen. So then we get into air quality, and then we get into that 6 foot versus 3 feet. And I want to have that formal conversation with our unions to try to get that MOU looked at and see what are the requirements, what are the things that we can do to increase in-person learning. But again, I'm having trouble seeing the path until such time we're able to take a look at that document, because like you, I don't expect the governor to lift the state of emergency, and I certainly don't expect the director general to declare the pandemic to be finished anytime soon. We have a whole second strand that's coming. We have a lot of unknowns. I do agree that the data has been trending really positively, and so that was something to be optimistic about, right? So we're looking at those numbers too, and that looks pretty good. I mean, you know, I'm looking at not just New Hampshire. I'm looking, you know, obviously at all the states, and you're seeing the numbers are looking better. And I would believe that has something to do with the vaccinations, but you know, maybe hopefully it has something to do with people being responsible about not just travel, but you know, large gatherings and those sorts of things where people are not socially distancing and gathering and kind of infecting each other. So. So what you're saying is accurate, and I think that's the next step. I think is to try to sit down with the unions and take a look at this. And so I'm waiting for their response. In fairness to them, they you know, they're looking at a few things. I think they were more focused on the, you know, what's right in front of them, which is the February break date, and then after that, though, we're back. It's March, and you know, the two dates. I'm looking at the 15th and the 22nd, second, third week of March. You know, if you wait too long, it's April vacation. You know, then we're talking about April vacation. So.
Right.
You know, so we have to have an aggressive time frame here. I certainly, you have my commitment. I'm certainly going to continue those conversations and work with our union presidents and memberships to try to get to a place where everybody feels we can get more in-person learning. I just don't have that recommendation to make this evening, other than in the event that one of those two conditions were lifted, and they're not. So we're kind of in the hybrid model for now.
I guess the only thing I'll add to this then is, you know, I definitely agree. I think it's great if we can go back and discuss with the union about the MOU. I would just like to raise a couple things about the MOU, though, that, you know, there's a couple other ways, and I think it's the appetite of the board also, you know, because the 6-foot motion and vote definitely we'd have to review that in order for the MOU to even be discussed. But also in the MOU, there is under safe working conditions, it does show that it does state that unless recommended by the federal or state agencies, and if we go to look at DHHS, they do recommend that it is in their guidelines for students in the classroom to be 3 feet apart. You know, adults 6 feet apart. You know, so if teachers were 6 foot apart from students and the students are 3 feet, we'd be abiding by the guidelines that they set forth in the latest revision in January. So that does cover us for the MOU stating that unless recommended by federal or state agencies. And you know, I know the World Health Organization has been saying 3 feet from the beginning. So, but I know that's not in the MOU. But again, in the MOU, number 1 under safe working conditions, say if anything changes at the federal or state agencies, that is something for us to you know, bring up and discuss as part of the MOU, and you know, really agreement with the unions.
Yeah, that's certainly a discussion starter, no doubt. You know, collaborative work between the board and the union. That's just the way Hampstead has always operated before I was here, while I was here, and will long beyond when I'm gone. So, you know, we just need to get down and get to the table and try to start. You know, we've been having these discussions informally. We're looking for more of a formal. And again, you know, when one side has an agreement, a signed agreement, you know, they need to agree to actually take another look at it. So. That's where we're at right now. But I think in fairness to them, they've been super collaborative and doing everything that they should do. I think what's right in front of them is the February break, and they're worrying about, you know, how many are going to have to quarantine and can we open? And then I think hopefully once we settle that, then we can move on to the next issue, which is really the MOU and more in-person learning sooner than later. That's my hope.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else on this item?
Caitlin, so I have something to say. It's related to the Safe Learning Plan, but I don't know if I should wait until board comments.
You
don't have much information. It's related to the Safe Learning Plan.
I would say if it's related to the Safe Learning Plan, then you can go ahead now.
Okay, thank you. So I did actually, I feel like sometimes I ramble a bit. So I did try to jot down my thoughts so that I don't waste anybody's time. So I will be reading. Okay, so 60% to 100% of our students' school week is still taking place in front of a screen. I understand there are space constraints and certain measures we need to take to ensure the safety and comfort of our teachers, who really are essential workers. I recognize that they go into work every day and they're risking their health by being with by being in school, by going to work. I understand that in Hampstead, there are challenges that have limited our ability to get everybody back into the schools full time for those families who do want to be in school. And, we're talking about the vaccine. It's here, but remote learning is not going away in the near future. Personally, and I think several board members have shared tonight, we should not be placing our reliance on the vaccine to get us back to full time. Governor Sununu said it himself the other day that the vaccine is not a prerequisite to getting our students back in school. And we certainly cannot be relying on the state of emergency to be lifted. And if we're talking March, that's in a few weeks. I really feel our children need to be back in school full time. We have heard from enough families with stories about how their children are being affected. And it's really been devastating for me to read the letters, be on the calls. And, I think it's fair to say everyone on this call, us on the board, administration, and everyone attending, know a student who is struggling, and probably not just one. We have our introvert children who may be getting all A's and B's. However, they are digressing when it comes to those social skills and emotional strength. And then we have our extroverts who thrive around people, but they are being constrained from demonstrating their full potential. It is super hard to stay engaged remotely. In the corporate world, consulting and training firms are making a killing off of the pandemic. There are so many virtual workshops and courses on how to keep employees engaged during these times. And if it's hard for us adults, it is so much tougher for our children because they're really depending on us. If we are not able to work within the limitations of our school building walls, you know where I'm going. It's time to take education outside. We sit here and we talk about how we're tight on budget. We talk about New England weather. Portland, Maine has been holding class outside all throughout the winter. I think their measurement is, or their no-go is, when it drops below 20, they go full remote. There's so many districts in Maine and Vermont, and these places are not any warmer than New Hampshire. And I've actually talked to school board members from Maine, and I have a call later this week in Vermont, a district in Vermont. And it's really, as a parent, I'm not trying to speak for the board, so please don't interpret what I'm saying that way. But these districts have used their CARES fund to buy winter gear for the students and teachers. They have used the CARES funds to buy paint gallons and clipboards for their kids to sit on outside. And while that doesn't sound very pleasant, I mean, it just sounds a lot more pleasant than what our children are going through right now. And, if we don't want to look at outdoor learning, that's fine. But my point is that there are so many districts out there that are getting creative. And I know Dr. Metzler said we should not be comparing ourselves to other districts. While I do agree with that to an extent, I don't think it's fair. And us in Hampstead, we hold our heads up so high. We are so proud to be a part of the school community. And I just feel like we should be looking at this more creatively. I've been brainstorming all these different ways on how we can get more kids in school. Like, has anyone looked at, and these may be unreasonable, but when you're brainstorming, there's no such thing as a bad idea. So can we look at the meeting house? It's a crosswalk away from the central school. Can we look at the town hall? It's a little bit further. across the lawn from the meeting house. I just, I understand options are being looked at, but I don't know what those options are. And I feel like, our children don't deserve what they're going through right now. And, I feel like it's our fault because we are not being creative enough. So whatever that means to you, I stopped reading, so I probably started rambling, but I don't feel like we're being creative enough for our kids. And it breaks my heart every day. We have to do something about it because this isn't going away. And that's it.
Can I add on to that there, Caitlin? Or unless somebody else wanted to say something? Yeah, I
Go
wasn't
ahead.
going to talk too much about this, but there was I'd say a pretty strong advocacy from the North, or not North, but Andover Pediatrics. I'm just going to read a couple of lines. All the doctors in the office just submitted an opinion letter to the editor. And I'm just going to read a few lines from this because it speaks to what you're saying, Megan, about, we're not other districts, but our kids are part of this. Our kids are part of, they have friends in other districts that see them flourishing, et cetera. And so when we're talking about us, the board, us, the administrators, and us, the union, in talking about the MOU, I really think we got to put this in perspective, these lines. So I'm just going to read 3 small paragraphs. In an effort to reduce the rate of spread of COVID-19 within our community, our children have been deprived of essential social interaction. This in turn has damaged them emotionally, physically, socially, and academically. We have witnessed a dramatic rise in anxiety and depression, and subsequent rises in psychotherapy, referrals, anti-anxiety, and antidepressant prescriptions, and psychiatric hospitalization. Obesity rates are skyrocketing due to the sedentary lifestyle and overeating at home. Students lament the lack of social interactions with their classmates, friends, and teachers that they once enjoyed in school. Many introverted, shy children are developing social anxiety when they do not practice simple social interaction. Now, this is on the parents also, of course, but we have a choice here that when we talk about MOU and we talk about how can we get the kids back, this plays a part. Our society has been known to have great public school systems, and right now it hurts the kids. This is all hurting the kids. And I think that we could do things, and I appreciate that we're going to be discussing this, that there'll be some negotiation and bringing forth to the MOU review. And I think this board and or future boards are going to have a strong, position on what do we consider the best thing forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you both. Do we have any other board comments or discussions on safe learning?
Yeah, I have a comment, response to Megan's initiatives that she's been talking about for a while now about outdoor classrooms. I don't disagree with her that outdoor classrooms can be beneficial to children, both short-term and long-term. However, I also did some research about a school in Rockport, Maine, and one in Falmouth, Massachusetts. And they have them not just for COVID, but year round. And the key here, though, with both of them was that this wasn't simply, a knee-jerk reaction to COVID. In order to make it successful and to make it sustainable, months and months of planning went into outdoor classroom space. For instance, they had to create an outdoor learning program, develop action plans to strategize and implement the changes. They had to, thoughtfully equip the natural extension of the curriculum. There were a lot of questions that had to be answered. It's a major shift on how teaching is conducted from the traditional to virtual and now to outdoor. And just looking at the different things that would have to be considered, there has to be buy-in, obviously. The teachers, the staff, parents have to buy into outdoor learning. We have to look at policy changes. We have to look at technical changes. Are they going to be out there all the time? Who's going to be using it? Who decides who's going to be out in the outdoor classroom? Are we going to need electricity? Are we going to need Wi-Fi? What are the things that we're going to need to really make this successful? If this is something that Hampstead and future boards want to look at as a really serious option. I just really think that this has been successful. As Megan has said, it's been successful in Scandinavia. But again, the key to this success was a great deal of planning and research went into it to make it sustainable. Everything from temperatures. At what point don't we go out? What's the cutoff when we can go into an outdoor classroom or when we have to be inside? There's a safety issue. How do we keep the kids in the outdoor space as safe as the kids in the core building? Policies, dress codes. There's just so much to think about that I think that would may be a possible good goal for the next school board to look into if they agree they want it and really put the effort and time into it and plan it. Because I think it really does have some worthwhile benefits. So that's my point.
Sorry, forgot I was on mute. Do we have anything else from board members?
I'm good. Well, I agree. We're rolling into mid-February, so I definitely feel the next board could make that a goal. I mean, Megan, I've been online, believe me, I've looked at prices of, what would it cost to build a 30 by 30 gazebo, have some portable easels. I see the pictures of the pandemic from the early 1900s. They were teaching outside on easels. I remember when I was in elementary school, my sixth grade teacher used to take us out all the time. We would just sit in the grass, do math, do whatever lesson he wanted to give us out on the school grounds. I would love to see something. And, we're pretty close to having a new board. And I think Karen's idea is great. Make it as a goal and get it done. Get the right people on a committee, how much it's going to cost, space, can't be next to the playground because of noise, whatever you're going to think about. All the players could be there making decisions and we could figure out, what money we have to get it done and what the teachers need. I think that's a great idea. I definitely think we should do that, Megan and Karen. That's all I have.
Jim. Okay. If it looks like we're done with safe learning, I'm going to move us on. Okay. All right. Next on the agenda, we have the 2021-2022 school calendar first read. Mr. Flynn.
Thanks, Caitlin. There's going to be a delay in this. And the reason is, believe it or not, this morning, we got an email from the state. Excuse me. Initially, the state makes recommendations towards towns on what a calendar should look like the following year. And one of the things that most districts try and stay on the same page is February break and April break. So the initial recommendation by the state next year in 2022 was to have February break February 21st through the 25th. And then they kind of threw a curveball at everyone. And as of this morning, they made the recommendation to reevaluate for that to February 28th through March 4th. Obvious reasons for that was that we were aligning with the Massachusetts breaks and they wanted to keep it separate with the states. But more importantly, more specifically for us as Hampstead, Pinkerton had sent us their calendar that they had finalized. We just want to make sure that we're going to be on the same page. We do what's best for us, but we also understand that we have families at Pinkerton as well as here. So that first draft will actually be to you at the next board meeting.
Okay, thank you for the update. All right, so next is the Central School Principal Search Committee update. Dr. Metzler.
Excellent. Thank you, Caitlin. And, Mike's involved in this. We were able to get the job description. Thank you, Melissa. Solid and posted. That went out I believe last Friday. We have a March, what was it, 14th? Is 5-6 week posting. Melissa, do you remember the date? It's somewhere in that first
14.
week.
14. Yep.
Thank you. So we have enough time to to get candidates. There's that vacation week in there, so we wanted to make sure that that didn't impact our ability to solicit good candidates. I know, Mike, I think, did you have the opportunity to notify unsuccessful people that were asking to be part of the team? Let me say it this way. We had quite a few people reach out. So we're still waiting on confirmation on a couple. And so we're not at a point to introduce the search committee at this point, but we did notify people that were unsuccessful in terms of, we thank them for their interest, but the team's only so big. So Mike, you want to talk a little bit about that, or?
Yeah, so we told you a couple weeks ago, Dr. Metzler mentioned who the representatives were going to be, and we wanted to make sure that it was a manageable committee. So that's why we had to let let a few people down. But we definitely appreciate all the people that have reached out. And then once we confirm, I think we have about 2 more, then we can obviously by the next meeting let you guys know.
Okay. Oh. Caitlin, you went, I think you dropped your call. Yeah. Oh.
I just keep forgetting to unmute myself. Thank you for the update. Board members, do you have any questions on this? Okay, not seeing any. Keep us going. Next, I'm going to do a brief update on the public forum for our superintendent finalists. So that forum, the public notice went out today on that. That public forum is this Thursday. It's the 11th, starts at 6:30 p.m. You can access it via Zoom. We'll have our 2 finalists there. At this point, we've allocated 45 minutes to each finalist. And once you are signed into the Zoom, you'll be able to use the question and answer feature to submit questions. I will be serving as somewhat of a moderator in that, and I will, along with the help of the committee members who are able to attend, will present the questions to the finalists. And my intention is to get as many questions in as possible. Obviously, if there are duplicates, we'll skip around a little bit, but that's my intention. So this is the public's chance to ask the questions you would have. So we urge you to attend to get to know the finalists and to be able to get answers to your questions. So again, that's this Thursday, the 11th at 6. It starts at 6:30 p.m. That's all I have on that.
I wanted to talk about that, but I think Dr. Metzler is going to be talking about something in his personnel report. So I'm wondering if I'm going to bring up the superintendent search again after the personnel report, if you don't mind.
Sure, we can bring it back to other business. Like, oh, yeah, that's fine. And kind of like
Because I
circle back
don't
to it.
wanna hop in front of Dr. Metzler on the personnel report. I just want to tie that in to the superintendent search and certain skill sets
Sure.
we might need to be looking for now versus
Sure.
old information from before. Little cryptic,
Okay.
but it will all come together in a few minutes.
Okay. So we'll go to board comments and correspondence. I'm going to go in the order I see. Megan, do you have anything for board comments?
I don't.
Okay. Jim, do you have anything for board comments?
I was taking some notes. I was just thinking about this. I don't know how many candidates, but at least 4 running for school board. And this isn't pro or against anybody. These are just comments that I just want to make. and I have an opportunity to. There's things going on in New Hampshire that I would hope any school board member would get behind. The school vouchers are coming back again to hurt public education. We need better funding in New Hampshire to help the children and the taxpayers. Also, as a school board member, we're a board, but, our role is not to micromanage. I don't know, we're just thinking about new school board members coming and, the type of candidate that I hope we could get, that someone really supports the school and works collaboratively with the school. And then also looks out for what's best for education in New Hampshire. Also, it's not just, the flavor of the week of what's going on in Hampstead. It's a big, picture of what's going on in the state and what's going on federally also that supports education. And I just wanted to make that comment, that's all.
I think it was a great comment, Jim. Thank you. David.
Yeah, a couple things. I'll put some of it into other business, but correspondence. It goes to what Jim was just talking about, some of the bills that have come up. I had the pleasure to speak and give my testimony for two bills on Thursday on HB 214, which is related to providing building aid grants of about $50 million that would be set for every year. So I was able to speak to that one, as well as HB 594, which this one was going to be, it's also related to the $50 million per year. Plus it would reimburse for any debt that schools have incurred for service payments owed in the fiscal year. So both of these are very important, I feel, because as we know that the state has given a moratorium about 10 years ago or so, and has limited, if not almost eliminated, any funding over the last 10, 11, 12 years. So, again, it's my pleasure to speak to those. And then the other one that I think you were talking about there, Jim, was HB 20, which is about, sending $75 million to private institutions for reimbursements. That is going before the Education Committee this coming Thursday. So if anybody's feeling that they want to passionately go for or against it, there's the opportunity to sign up for that testimony this Thursday. And I would strongly support anybody to sign up for that one, because if we can't even fund $50 million a year for school building aid, I say shame on us for not even thinking about spending money in other places and other schools that if we can't even handle what's in our backyard. So that's, I'd say for correspondence, that's about all.
Okay, thank you. Karen.
Yes. Tonight wraps up 6 years of board service for me. So I'm going to use my board comment time to say some thank yous and to share some of my thoughts. As I said, tonight is my last regularly scheduled board meeting. So I'd like to thank those who have allowed me to serve. During my 2 terms, by working together under the supervision of Dr. Metzler, with the administration, the staff, the union, and former Assistant Superintendent, Dr. Roxanne Wilson, we've accomplished many things that have had a positive impact on Hampstead's education. To name a few, we expanded the STEAM program and technology. We took a closer look at our integrated arts program, our classroom management practices, our visitor policy, and the effectiveness of homework. For the first time in the history of Hampstead's education, we introduced a FLES program, offering Spanish to our youngest children. We moved our students out of the portables and into the core building, where additional security measures were installed. We hired for the first time a school resource officer and a social worker to meet the many challenges that students and families experience. Through teamwork and thoughtful planning, each year our school board goals were met as they were carefully aligned with the district's 5-year strategic plan and those of the superintendent. Most recently, we've struggled how best to provide a safe learning experience for students and staff amid the COVID pandemic. Finally, I'd like to thank the staff at SAU 55 that provides management and financial support to our board. Decisions that I've made as a board member were not always popular. I realize that, but they were always data-driven and based on proven best practices to move the district forward and to promote the educational well-being of all students. Over the last year, my views on what is the best path forward for the Hampstead School District have been at odds with those of the majority of the board, from staffing leadership positions to how best effectively govern as a board. My decisions were predicated on the belief that during these challenging times, the district would be best served by maintaining continuity and consistency. Continuity in leadership and consistency in existing working relationships. I wish only the best for the Hampstead School District. Our teachers and involved parent population have always been the cornerstone for the success of our students. Future board members will be held to account and are responsible for the decisions they make, as those decisions will impact the lives of our students and staff now and for years to come. Hampstead will begin the next school year as a single district SAU under the leadership of a yet unknown and untested superintendent, and must fill multiple administrative positions, including but not limited to a principal for central school, director of curriculum, and a director of technology. They must be the most qualified candidates to ensure academic excellence. The successful establishment of our independent SAU is paramount to the academic achievement of our students and prosperity of our community. For the benefit of our children, may you all be successful. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you for the 6 years, Karen.
My
Thank you.
pleasure,
Yep.
Jim.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I guess technically I skipped over myself. I don't have anything for correspondence right now. So I'm going to move on to consent agenda. Dr. Metzler.
If I could, I'm not sure if this is, if it's what you call a moment of personal privilege, but yeah, I guess that's what it would be. If I could, just for a minute, certainly, we have two members that have done quite a bit for this school district, for this school board, for our community. Both of you have chosen not to run. I think it would be remiss if I didn't, on behalf of all the administrators, all the teachers, all the paras, the custodians, the cafeteria workers, to thank Karen and Caitlin. Your service. Again, like Karen said, you don't always agree on everything, but we do agree that we always want the best for Hampstead, and you were champions for children, you were champions for our school district, and we all appreciate it. So thank you both. We wish you the best. We wish, I'm just be honest, I wish you both were coming back, but I understand how this works. So again, thank you both from all of us, really, and for me personally, I certainly feel blessed to have known and worked with both of you. So thank you. Moving on to the personnel report. So I have to bring this up. I didn't have this. Okay. Here. Okay. First, we have one retirement to share with you this evening in your packets. Sheila Nolan. She's our Hampstead Central School reading specialist. She's been with us for 23 years. Does an outstanding job. I congratulate her on her retirement. I'd like to take that as a standalone, if you would, Caitlin, and get a motion and second and vote on that?
Of course. Can I have a motion to definitely with regret accept the retirement of Sheila Nolan? She's always been a friendly face. I know when I've gone into the school, so she will be missed. But on that note, if I could have a motion?
Thank you, Ms. Nolan. Happy retirement.
I think we had, so Karen made the
Oh.
motion.
Second.
Sorry. Okay, Jim, second.
Thank you.
Do we have any discussion?
Thank you for your service to our district.
Yes.
Happy retirement.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Melissa, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Malcolm,
Yes.
Mrs. Parnell,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney,
Yes.
Mrs. Yusenka.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
All set, Caitlin?
Yep, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, the next one, obviously, this is kind of an emotional one for me for so many reasons. You know, I've been in this business for 4 decades, and any success that I may or may not have had has to do with surround yourself with talent, with the absolute best. You know what you do well. You know what maybe you don't do so well. One thing I do believe I find talent and certainly grow talent. And this gentleman, he's just a superstar. I told you that when we recruited him and got him in Hampstead. I'm just so excited for him because his career is just taken off like a rocket ship, and it should. When I hired him in Timberlane, it was I'd say, what do you want to do next? Do you want to be the technology director? Do you want to be the middle school principal? Do you want to be? I mean, he can do it all, and he can do it all better than most, if not all. And so I just absolutely love working with him. He's not just a colleague, he's a friend, he's extended family, if you will. But I am so excited for him. So I want this to be a good thing. I don't want to be sad about this. But Mike Flynn has tendered his resignation, and we're very excited about the next steps in his career. But I bring that to you for your action this evening.
So I have to make the motion or ask for the motion, right? Can't just like not do it? Just kidding.
Yeah, no, I get it. Somebody has to.
So can I please have a motion to accept the resignation of Mr. Mike Flynn with regret, but also congratulations?
I'm not doing it. I'm shutting off my.
All right. I'll make the motion.
Second.
Any discussion? I'm going to discuss real quick, just real quick. And I know Mike's not thrilled with this. I had the unique opportunity to get to know Mike pretty well when we did the assistant superintendent search for SAU 55 a couple of years ago. And I got to go into his school. He was principal in Timberlane at the time. I got to go into his school and talk to his staff. And that is what blew me away about Mike, was how his staff spoke about him and how much they viewed him as a partner and someone who they could really go to. So when we had the opportunity to interview Mike and bring him to Hampstead for a new type of position, I was thrilled to be able to bring him over. I think anyone who knows Mike knows that he's going far. So I wish him the best. And I know that he will blow them away in any district that he's in. So thank you for your time in Hampstead. That's it. Anybody else? Are we going to go for a vote? Okay, we're gonna go for a vote.
I just want to add one. Caitlin, do you mind if I just say real quick?
No,
I
go
shared-
ahead.
I shared this with Mr. Flynn. I had some emails traded with the legislature, one of the representatives that's in his district. He asked about Mr. Flynn, and I just said, I'm looking forward to when he's nominated and wins the award for Best Superintendent of the Year for New Hampshire. So I know that's what they're getting. So I appreciate your time, Mr. Flynn.
All right.
We don't get a
Let's go.
speech or anything from Mike?
He is probably real pissed that we're doing this.
Give me a second here. This place has been great for me. It's provided me the opportunity to do what I want to do. And it's this board that took a chance on me a couple years ago. I told Caitlin I didn't want to make this about me, so I want to move forward in it. But man, it's been a great run, and it's always going to be a piece of my heart. That's all I got right now. Sorry.
Great. Now you're doing it to the rest of us. All right. I'm gonna call the vote. Melissa, go ahead.
Ms. Malcolm,
Yes.
Mrs. Parnell,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney,
Yes.
Mrs. Yusenka.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. With regret. Dr. Messer will send it back to you. If you have any more good news for us.
Yeah, thanks a lot. It's snowing out. How's that? No, I don't. Maybe
Yeah.
it's.
Right. Oh, great. Fantastic. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we have a pretty quick executive consultant report this evening. We're excited about our new single platform system. We're working on the onboarding and all those sorts of things. So Jeff and Mike and people they gave us what's called the sandbox. So you get to play in the sandbox, so you can work within this with this new platform and see kind of how it works before we get it really set up and running. So that should happen real soon. And we're excited about that. So again, we thank you for the support on that. And I think that's going to be a really good piece of management, a really good assistance to the management moving forward. Sending schools with PA, we had an opportunity, again, a meeting with the sending districts, Pinkerton Academy. I have to say again, I thank Dr. Powers. His communication has been outstanding. He looks out for all our towns. And so, they're doing a great job. It was, they just got back in person. So that was a difficult decision today on an early release. And I can talk a little bit about that now. So we talk about, snow days, and I think it's important just to revisit this every once in a while. And today is like one of those days where we need to revisit that, not because we had a snow day, but because there are so many variables. And it's not just as simple as, deciding the night before or waking up. And sometimes it is because there's so much snow, you don't have a choice. But this was like one of those days where there was a choice. So, last night I was talking to Dr. Powers and we went back and forth about an early release. And when we early release, we have 3-tiered buses. So for those that don't know, we use the same buses and they run 3 different routes. That's why they call it a 3-tiered system. And what happens when Pinkerton releases early and then the buses are late, a lot of times, even though we have an early release at the central school, the kids get home later than they would on a normal day. So early releases are very, very tricky and complicated for us when Pinkerton decides they're going to have an early release. And we were able to do it a week or so ago, primarily because Pinkerton was fully remote. So the discussion was, hey, this is only our second day back. I really want to get in person. I said, so he decided they were going to release early today, which left us with let's take a risk with the snow or have a snow day. All the sending towns were pretty much doing remote or snow days. And so we called the snow day, but a lot goes into it. We start the evening before for most of us, and we're up at 4 a.m. Texting back and forth trying to make that decision whenever possible. I know I made the analogy earlier. I want to let you know the night before if we can, so you can plan. Mike was surprised today. I was surprised today. We weren't really expecting on not being in school. We had a different decision last night, late last night, and Then today, it kind of turned a little bit, it was iffy. And so we just want to make sure we get kids home safe. It's another one of those things where we put safety first and worry about everything else later. Nothing's more important than the safety of our children, your children. Just so people understand, it's very complicated and it's not as simple as it may seem sometimes. And we're just trying to do the best we can. This particular year, we've kind of transitioned a little bit away from blizzard bags because everyone's had just about enough online work, to say the least. And so every now and again, if they can have a snow day and enjoy the old traditional snow days like we all enjoyed when we were kids, that's great. So that's really what happened today. But again, I bring that up in my conversation about Pinkerton because that's such a collaborative group and they work together. And we try to stick together. I know we're coming from all different communities, but we try to stick together on these things. And all of our plans are different. All of blizzard bags mean something different. Hybrid means something different. All those sorts of things. But at the end of the day, we're all trying to make sure that we do the best we can for our community. So all I can do is thank people in advance for your support and patience as we just try to do the best we can to keep everyone safe. And finally, we have renominations coming up, and Melissa's working out some really efficient and effective ways to kind of go paperless if we can. That kind of dovetails with our new platform, which will not be necessary. We're not sure it'll be necessarily up and running 100% at that point, but she has another plan, and I want to support that. We want to limit the paper, and so that's something that the new board, as soon as you reorganize on the 23rd of March, that will hit you pretty quickly because we need to get that done before the 15th of April, as you know, and so that's when the contracts go out and all those sorts of things. So. Anyway, that's the executive consultant's report. And I didn't know if you had any questions at all. I'd be happy to answer.
Board members, any questions? Okay.
Great. Thanks, Caitlin.
Thank you, Dr. Metzler. Okay, other or old business? Does anybody have anything for this?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Jim.
Okay, so I knew it was somewhat public knowledge, but I wanted Dr. Metzler to talk about Mike first. So when we first started looking for a superintendent, obviously we had some things in mind, I'd say. But with Mike leaving and going to a single district SIU, do we need to, I'm not saying open the search back up, but do these candidates need to be looked at differently now? For example, is the superintendent of our new district also going to do curriculum, and we're going to hire a technology director? Are we going to try to find a unique individual like Mike to do both again, which I think we probably won't be able to do? So I'm just wondering if we need to pause and reflect and think about, do the two candidates we have going to be able to take us where we need to go?
So if Megan wants to speak to that as well, she can. I can tell you my personal opinion is our finalists have the capabilities to handle that and to look at with the board what positions are needed where. I personally have confidence in the finalists that can happen.
Do you, well, I don't know how many meetings we have or what's ahead of us, but I mean, I would like to be able to talk to that superintendent as a candidate and to know what his scope might be, to be able to ask him those questions. Because I still
that's
think
totally valid for the public forum.
well, all I'm saying is Mike's position as it is, I think we need to make a decision, how we're going to move forward with that. So we can know, what is that superintendent going to do? Are they also going to do curriculum? Are they going to pick up special ed? Are they going to pick up something else? I guess that's where my question is.
I would not suggest stopping the process now. That's my personal opinion. I think as you push things out further, you also jeopardize your pool of candidates. I think we have experienced finalists who have worked with running districts. We don't have any finalists who have not served in direct district leadership positions. So while I can understand what you're saying, Jim, for sure, I mean, this is clearly now going to be a bigger challenge. I don't really have concerns that it's not something that districts have faced in the past. So I do feel like anybody who's qualified to and has some experience with that level, personally, I feel like is okay. I'm not saying it's not gonna be tough. I'm not saying that the board and the superintendent don't have challenges going forward. I'm just saying I don't feel they're insurmountable or would necessitate a change. So that's just, I mean, just from sitting on the search committee, that's what I can say at this point.
Right. Are we having a non-public tonight? Do you know?
I did not have anything on the agenda for it, but if you have a motion for one, we can do that when we're finished up here.
Yeah, I would like to have one. Yeah,
Okay.
I just concerned that, Mike is leaving and the makeup of our new SAU and the real scope of the superintendent in a small district is going to encompass something else. I just want to make sure that that candidate can do what we might want them to do, but we haven't figured that out, unfortunately. We had a plan initially and we kind of changed it. So in the end, if we end up replacing that position with a technology director, let's say, and this individual has to do curriculum, I just want to make sure we got the right candidates and not try to fit the square peg into a round hole or whatever they say.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, we can do a non-public because I just don't want to talk about any people, obviously in public. So, Jim, once we're done with old business, if you want to bring forward the motion, or I can do the wording. I just need to find my thing, but
Yeah, I don't have my list, sorry.
that's okay. Okay, anybody else have other or old business?
Yeah, I got just a couple of things really quickly on the renovations, Caitlin. So the flyers that the majority of the board had voted and approved should be sent out this week and received in about a week and a half to 2 weeks through the mailing system. So I appreciate the will of the board there. I wanted to say a very special thank you to Dr. Cheney, Mrs. Denola, and Mrs. Griffin. They participated in one of our Zoom sessions last week to talk about the plan, about how it affects the central school and the middle school in students. And, they very much advocated for it and gave compelling reasons why not only should it be approved, but outstandingly approved by the community. And I just want to say, I think Mrs. Denola is on. I just want to say a huge recognition to Mrs. Denola for showing some really great leadership during that Zoom call. I know that I, as well as others, we learned why we're not giving a break to anything and why Mrs. Denola is the right person for that job. She spoke very well, and I just wanted to call that out and just accolades for Mrs. Denola for some of the things that she was saying. Next, we do have a call. We do have another Zoom session tomorrow. We're doing a live walkthrough of the central school with Principal Collins. So we're going to go through and show everybody that cannot make in the school due to the pandemic. We're going to walk through the entire school live and then take questions at the end. If anyone has questions about what they saw in the school, and or for Mr. Collins or myself or Megan, we'll be able to answer anything. So again, live Zoom call tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. It's on the Renovations website. And then last one is next week. We have the next Zoom call is with Trident, BPS, and Dennis Myers to go over what it takes to sign up to be a contractor and be considered for bidding on the project. We'll also they'll also be there to answer any questions about what's the value of this, if there's any questions about the value of this school and the addition renovations compared to others, and just in general about this project, how we go about bidding it, and how this does give the right value for the community and the students. And we'll also probably have a couple other special guests at that time that we're lining up. And that's pretty much what we're going to be trying to do every week between now and the voting. Is every week is a different type of Zoom call. It's not going to be the same thing, Megan and I going through the plan. It is advocates for the school and why it's of value to the community. So we really appreciate everybody that's taking part in that and that has helped out. I mentioned it before, Mr. Mackey, Mr. Flynn, Dr. Messler, Jeff Dowd, others that have helped in the background. Really appreciate it. And the last thing I'll make mention is we did talk about last week a grassroots effort, the Hampstead Hearts. They did make us aware, as I'm part of, and Megan have been supporting them as well, that they do plan on providing a donation at the end of right around March 10th with what's in their fund balance, that they'll be looking to the board to accept a donation to the capital reserve to help out in any way. But of course, that's the will of the board to vote on that, but that's their intent, is that through donations that they've received, they'll be donating that to the school in about a month. That's all I got.
Okay, thank you, David. Anybody else on old or other business? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to ask for a motion to enter non-public under 91A:3, section 2, I don't have it in front of me, C, reputation. Okay, Melissa, give me, okay.
Correct.
Okay, C, reputation. Thank you. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second? I think that was Karen. Karen, did you second?
Yusenka?
Yes, I did. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, Melissa, will you, oh, sorry.
Just a real quick question. It's a reputation, is that of, what are we, I know I can't ask you any question, but is it like reputation of a candidate? Is it like, what's the?
No, so all we're gonna say is that it's reputation. And because if we're discussing someone other than a board member, it's just reputation.
Got it, thank you.
Okay, Melissa, will you please poll the board?
Ms. Malcolm?
Yes.
Mrs. Parnell?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mrs. Yusenka?
Yes, and I have a question. How are we going into this? Are you going to provide another link or what are we doing?
Yep, Mike is going to send out a link. We're trying to set that up behind the scenes.
Yep, I'll be emailing it as soon as this meeting.
Okay. Okay, so we are not making any decisions. We will not be coming back. Board members and Melissa, you'll get a link. I will see you in there. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.